Hey, welcome everybody to the Grilling Truth Network's presentation of Indianapolis Colts Weekly, brought to you by betnow.eu, where you can go spend all your money, think you're going to get filthy rich, and some of you will, and like guys like me, got money in my account, won't spend the money because I don't know how to gamble. But anyway, it's a great site. They give you all kinds of deals, and you got to go to the grillingtruth.network and look at what the latest deal is that they're giving you. And I want to welcome in my co-host, Cole Hanna, who is a Colts genius, and is going to break down this week's game for us entirely, and I'm just going to shut up and let him talk. So, Cole, welcome to the show. What the heck happened this week?
Yeah, a lot of bad things happened this week. Frankly,
no shit. Really, seriously?
Frankly, I don't think any of the Colts three faces played particularly well. Offensively, the vaunted running attack that had really been unstoppable at times through the first 3 weeks did not deliver. Marlon Mack just goes 11 carries in this one. You'd like to ideally get him way more.
Let me stop you right there. What has happened to our vaunted offensive line? I mean, we don't give up any sacks. I get that, but we gain 81 yards on the ground out of four guys, and Brissett is our second largest rusher. We had 39 out of Marlon Mack, 19 out of Brissett. Wilkins gives us 17 yards on 4 carries. I mean, we threw 46 passes. What's going on with our offensive line? It's not creating holes that they were in the first 3 games of the season.
Yeah, I think part of what it is was just the situation the Colts found themselves in. Obviously found themselves down 14-0 rather quickly in this game, and when that happens, I think there's a tendency to try to abandon the run and start trying to throw the football more and, try to score yourselves back into it, so to speak. But part of it, I think, is just Oakland kind of – it looked like to me they were playing the run pretty hard, and I think that's why you saw Brissett. That and in combination with the Colts trailing for the majority of the game and having to throw the football really to try to get back into it. I think it's those two combinations of things that you saw the Colts rely heavier on the passing attack throughout the game rather than trying to open up holes for Marlon Mack. Definitely not a great game by the offensive line standards they've set so far this season. But I do think if this was a normal game and the defense had played better and the Colts, weren't down 14-0 5 minutes into the game, you would have seen a heavier approach to the running game. You would have seen the Colts rely on that more as the game developed. But when you're down 14-0 and you're trying to score, there's a tendency to drop the run game and start trying to throw the football all over the field. It didn't work out too well for the Colts, unfortunately, because Brissett struggled in this one. He did throw for 270 yards, 3 touchdowns, just 1 interception, but a pretty crucial interception, especially when you look at when it came. And 24
game-killing interception, yeah.
Yeah, it sealed it.
They were driving to tie the score, and they were, they were heading to the red zone. And they were driving, and so, okay, let me ask you this. Did we just get out-coached by John Gruden, really? Did Frank Reich just get out-coached? I mean, because if you're telling me everything you just said, it seems to me that you're saying we got out of our game plan, which is what has made the Colts strong, which is our running game balance with play-action passing, keeping the ball in play. I know we had some injuries. T.Y. Hilton didn't play. But did he just abandon our game plan and got beat by John Gruden, who I don't think is a great NFL coach, despite what everybody else in the world thinks he is and what the Oakland Raiders think he is. What's your thoughts?
Well, I'll say this. You got to give props to John Gruden in this one because one of the things you were talking about on the broadcast with Oakland, when you look at John Gruden as coach, the first 20 or so plays of the game are scripted before the game. So John Gruden game plans for whoever they're facing, scripts the first 20 plays and has an idea, okay, this is how I want to attack them. And then based on how those 20 plays go, he can adjust later in the game. But the first 20 plays or so are scripted. He knows what he's running. And those first 20 plays made the Colts defense look clueless in this one. I mean, the Colts defense looked like, to me, what was frustrating is it looked like when you look at the second half back to Atlanta last week, Atlanta really moved the football at will because it looked like the Colts kind of dropped into a soft zone defense, and Atlanta just picked it apart.
Well, they got Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, so they're going to move the ball on you. I mean, they're going to move the ball up and down the field with those two clowns. I mean, I say clowns. I don't mean that disrespectful. I'm just saying they're great football players, and they're going to move the ball on you. And they've got a great coach and a great offensive strategy. But I didn't see Oakland. I mean, this is one of the lower echelon teams in the NFL right now.
Yeah, and what makes
go ahead.
I was just going to say, what makes it problematic is if you give up a lot of points to Oakland in a half, okay, fine, that's, you don't want that to happen, but you kind of have to live with it when they have Matt Ryan, a quarterback, Julio Jones on the outside, and all those other talented receivers they have over there. But that's, for the first half of this game against Oakland, you saw similar things. The Colts playing a softer zone defense, and watching the game, it looked like Oakland just knew exactly where the holes in the zone were going to be. We had no pass rush on Derek Carr at all throughout the game. I mean, he could sit back there and just wait for guys to come open in the hole in the zone and just picked us apart. And that's the issue I see right now with the Colts defense. Now, to be fair, they did kind of tighten up in the second half. They gave up 3 points defensively in the second half. Oakland did have a touchdown off a pick six, but defensively we gave up 3 points in the second half. But that first half was atrocious. And if the Colts want to play a softer zone defense, they're going to have to get pressure on the quarterback because that defense is not going to work if the quarterback can just sit in the pocket all day and wait for his guy to come open. I mean, they'll pick you apart that way. I mean, we talked about that, on our last show, Steve. If you give Derek Carr time, he may not be the greatest quarterback in the NFL.
He's efficient. He's very efficient. He's a great quarterback. He's a great quarterback on a crap team, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, if you give him time in the pocket, he'll pick you apart. And the Colts had zero pass rush pretty much all game long. Guys like Kamoko Toure, Justin Houston, Denico Autry were not effective at all as far as pass rushing goes in this game. They need to be better, or the Colts are going to have to move away from that zone defense they're running right now. At least it's the main part of their coverage scheme because it's not working.
Well, let me ask you this. What is the trade deadline? I mean, can we still acquire players? I mean, I don't know this as well as you know this. Can we still acquire players right now? I mean, can we trade for people, or is the trade deadline over, or is there a moratorium on it, or what's going on with the trade stuff? Because our defensive line sucks.
Yep. So the trade deadline.
We're putting no pressure on anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, so the trade deadline is October 29th. So the Colts do have about a month left here to continue to look for deals.
The Colts, and the Colts have how much money in salary cap? They've got a ton of money. They've got to have a ton of money.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what the exact number is. All I can say is that the cap won't really be an issue. If the Colts are trying to find ways to fit a trade into the cap, they can absorb a lot of money. So they should not have any worries about cap when it comes to making trades because they can absorb pretty much any contract they want to.
All right, so in your eyes, let's just stay with the defense right now. We've got a defensive line that's just basically ineffective. I mean, it's just guys to trip over when you're running through the line for pretty much everybody now. I mean, they run for 188 yards as a team. Josh Jacobs runs for 79. Trevor Davis runs for 74. They're putting good numbers on the board while Carr is still throwing 31 passes. So our defensive line is not doing anything to slow the progress. Then you've got Darius Leonard out, and you've got some of our defensive backs hurt. So you're relying on the defensive line to kind of put up a little bit of a wall for you, and you're not getting it done. So does Irsay need to get his checkbook out and say, we've got to shore up this defensive line because that's the weakness of our defense? Is that the weakness, or is it the defensive backfield that's just inexperienced, or the injuries in our linebacking? What is it right now, Cole?
Yeah, I think it's probably defensive line right now. Obviously, you mentioned Trevor Jacobs goes 17 carries for 79 yards in this one. Trevor Davis for 74. Obviously, the Davis one was a little bit of an outlier since it was kind of like a reverse that went around the edges, and ideally,
it's one run, 60-yard long run. Yeah, you got them all.
Yeah,
you got 60 of his 74 yards on one run, so big deal. Yeah, okay, but still, we bit and we didn't bite.
Yeah. So, but
pretty much, we can't muster more than 81 yards as a total team on a team that really was leading the league in rushing in the first 2 weeks, and now we've just fallen apart. So go ahead.
Yeah. So the issue with trading and talking about Jim Irsay opening up the pocketbook is, Jim Irsay can come out and say, okay, I'm going to open up the pocketbook. I want to be aggressive. I want to make a trade here.
Who's available?
But it takes two teams to trade, right? Jim Irsay can't just say, I want that guy, go get him. You got to get the other team to agree here. And I'm not sure who's out because I'm trying to think. There's not that many impact players out there that the Colts, I think, are going to be able to get for a lower round draft pick. And I know Chris Ballard is going to be very, very hesitant to part with a high draft pick.
Right.
I know how much he loves
he's drafted well. He's drafted well. Very
with
well.
The way
he's
drafted,
drafting policies, yeah.
With the way he's drafted, a first-round draft pick and a second-round draft pick are very, very valuable commodities to the Colts, and something they're not going to part with very easily unless they find a deal that just blows them away and they're in love with it. I can't see them trading a high draft pick. So now the second question is, do you get a guy I do think defensive line's the issue here. I think you need to get more pressure. I think the secondary looks a little exposed right now because of the lack of pressure. I think those two issues.
Well, they got injuries. They got injuries back there too. They've got injuries.
Yeah, Malik Hooker is out, and then
Hooker's out.
Clayton Gathers
and then you've got Darius Leonard out, who plays in the defensive secondary a lot too. I mean, he drops back to pass protection. So you've got two key players that are out right now, correct?
Correct. Yeah, well, and Clayton Gathers, who is the safety that starts opposite of Malik Hooker after the Oakland game, is now in the concussion protocol as well. So we have to monitor that as well moving forward.
Yeah.
The Colts have a lot of injuries to monitor right now, unfortunately. So, they're a banged-up football team, and there's just going to be a lot of issues moving forward with this team if they can't get a pass rush. Now, the only trade I could see the Colts making, and it's not a Chris Ballard move. It doesn't seem like the move he'd try to make, but one guy that is out there does want to trade is Jalen Ramsey in Jacksonville. And if there's a talent out there that's going to be available for a high draft pick, an elite-level talent like Ramsey, who could really help to shore up Indianapolis' secondary, that's a move you might want to just monitor, just make a call in, see, what's the asking price for Ramsey. Again, it doesn't seem like a Ballard move. I don't think he's going to give up a high draft pick for someone with the attitude issues Ramsey has. But if you want to talk about trades that could help to shore up the Indianapolis defense, that could be an option there. But, again, I'm not expecting any big trades here with a high draft pick going out, to try to get some help in return. I do think the Colts have some young guys like Kamoko Toure, Banugu at the end, who they kind of hoping as the season develops they can get going. But they're going to need to do something from a pass rush standpoint right now, or change their coverage schemes to try to help hide that pass rush, because it's going to be a big problem moving forward for the defense if they continue to just let teams pick apart their zone and get no pressure on the quarterback.
All right, so let me ask you a question. How do you change the defensive scheme? Do you go to more man coverage?
It would probably
or you say because the zone's we're getting killed in the zone. I mean, we're getting ripped on big plays. Like I said, Carr only threw for 189 yards. It's not like that's a world beater, but they're underthrowing us, and we're in this zone defense, and we're giving up 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 yards a play. And so do you go to man and you man up now? Is that where you go, or what do you think we should do there?
I do think the Colts have a couple corners like Quincy Wilson and Rocky Sin, who at least coming out of college, they were kind of stereotyped as these are man-to-man corners. They're physical corners. They want to jam you at the line of scrimmage and then turn around and run with you. So I do think, if they're going to get no pass rush, then I think they're going to have to start looking at some man-to-man schemes, make the quarterback hold the football, because right now, and like you said, just 189 yards for Derek Carr passing this one. It's not like he threw for 350 yards and picked them apart.
That's not a good day for him. I mean, that's not a great day for him.
Yeah, what I think was
21-31 for 189 yards. I mean, 2 TDs. That's not a great day for Derek Carr. He's a better quarterback than that, and we let him beat us.
Yeah, I think what was frustrating about the performance was the amount of times the Colts got them in 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, big down, get off the field. And essentially, obviously it's more complicated than that, but what essentially happened was you get a 3rd and 6, and Oakland would just run a 7-yard comeback route, and it would be wide open in the zone, because that would be where they would run exactly where the hole in the zone was, sit down. And it wouldn't be a big gain. It's not a 25, 30-yard gain. It's a 7-yard gain, but it's back-breaking because you can't get off the field in 3rd down, and now you're letting the drive continue.
If you do that 2 out of 4 downs, you're getting a first down every time. 2 out of every 4 downs, you're getting a first down.
Exactly.
If you throw 2 7-yard under routes, and it's okay, I got 7, I'm going to get another 7. Now I got another 1st and 10, I'm going to get 7, and you're still going to play me in the zone. So the Colts have to make some adjustments there, but I still think they need to get pressure on the quarterback, because I think, I live out here in Los Angeles, and I see a fair amount of the Oakland Raiders play because I don't get the East Coast games. I get the West Coast games out here. And when Carr's under pressure, he's not as effective as when you just let him sit back in the pocket and pick you apart. I mean, he's as great a quarterback as there is when you sit back here and let him pick you apart. And the fact the Colts have no pressure on anybody right now defensively, he just picked us apart doing what you just said. He's underthrew us. So yeah. I think we need to get back to man-to-man and get into it.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably completely fair. I do think man-to-man schemes, the Colts are going to have to start looking at them long and hard with this secondary and saying, okay, we need to help cover for the lack of a pass rush. We need to make the quarterback hold on to the football to try to get a pass rush home. Because right now, the quarterback can just sit back there and hold on to the ball and wait for someone to come open, which usually doesn't take very long, and then just pick out, find the holes in the zone. The receiver will sit in the hole, and it's just way too easy for teams right now to pick us apart offensively. And now you've seen this really for back-to-back halves. When you look at the second half of the Atlanta game and to the first half of the Oakland game, it was just way too easy for teams to move the ball on us. Again, it got better in the second half. I think the Colts started to kind of come out of that softer zone, started to go to some more man-to-man schemes, started to play them more straight up, kind of get in the receivers' faces and play them a little bit closer. And I think you saw them get better defensively. But still, they, to go back to the original point about coaching, I mean, just to open up this game, John Gruden knew it seemed like he knew exactly what kind of zone schemes the Colts were going to run, knew exactly where the holes in those zone schemes were going to be, and just was, just as simple as running, find the zone, sit down, and you're wide open. And that's pretty
all
much
right.
Was
so here's a question for you: Are the Colts just too predictable?
More, they definitely look like.
Is the lack of a fact that you have Jacoby Brissett, and I've been pleased with him for what he's done, but after watching this last week, he's very predictable. You know what he's going to do, and the Colts' offense has become very predictable. And so answer these 3 questions: Is Brissett predictable? Is their offense boring? And what's happened to our offensive line? Because they were cracking holes like crazy, and it doesn't seem they're doing it right now. What's going on? Just address all of those issues, and I'll shut up and let you talk.
Yeah, so on the Jacoby Brissett front, obviously not his best game. And well, let's be fair here, though, as well. The Colts did have multiple drop passes in the first half and the second half of this game that really kind of hurt them. I think Eric Ebron had something crazy like 3 drop passes in his own right just in the first half. So
he caught one pass in the whole game,
Yeah, that doesn't help, a young quarterback like Brissett when you're just dropping catchable balls. Deion Kane who they kind of were hoping would step up, young guy at receiver who they really kind of liked what he gave them in training camp last year before he tore his ACL. Came back this season. They were hoping he could step up. Has done absolutely nothing. We have to remember T.Y. Hilton was out in this game, and not just T.Y. Hilton. We got to remember Devin Funchess, who was signed to be the Colts' number 2 wide receiver, is also out with a broken collarbone. So the Colts' number 1 and number 2 receiver were both out for this game. And so now you essentially, when you look at the receivers that the Colts were playing in this game, you had Zach Pascal, who has very little experience outside of special teams playing. As an offensive-minded receiver, he's pretty much been used as a blocking receiver. He's not really been a guy that's going to go out and get you a lot of catches and a lot of yards. He's forced into pretty much playing a role he's never played. You've got Chester Rogers, who, again, not exactly the – when you look at it, he's been a receiving threat for Indianapolis, but he's never had more than 300 or 400 yards receiving in a season. You have Paris Campbell, who's a rookie, and you have Deion Kane, who's also, not counting his injury that he suffered last year and missed all of last year, he's essentially a rookie. So they are incredibly inexperienced at receiver right now, and you have a young quarterback in Brissett. I think that's obviously not a great situation to be in offensively. As for the offensive line, it's similar to what I said before. I just think it's a situation where you kind of had everything going wrong for you in the game, where Oakland jumped out to a big lead, and you just kind of wanted to start to throw the football and try to get some of those points back. And maybe that was a mistake on Frank Reich's part. I do know Marlon Mack ended up with a ankle injury late in that game, so they held him out, mostly because by that point.
Yeah, he didn't play the fourth quarter. I don't think he played the fourth quarter at all, so, yeah.
Yeah, and by that point, the Colts were pretty much in a quick no-huddle offense.
All right, but
he would not have been a big weapon there anyway.
You have two very solid tight ends in Ebron and in Doyle. And Ebron goes 1 reception for 48 yards, so that was a bomb. He was targeted 6 times, which means they threw to him 6 times. He dropped 5 of the passes that were thrown to him. Yeah. Doyle is 4 of 8 on targets and gets 22 yards. I mean, are the Colts – is this a coaching issue right now? I mean, did they just mismanage it? Did they, again, I go back to the same thing. Did they get out-coached by, I don't want to say it, John Gruden? The guy needs to be back in the booth on NFL football on Monday nights. Jesus Christ, if he's worth $10 million a year, I'm worth $1 million a year to coach that team.
Yeah, Steve, it's just to start this game, the Colts are out-coached. It's just plain and simple. The Colts weren't ready to play.
Yeah, okay,
Oakland
good.
looked like they knew exactly what we wanted to do and how to attack it, and they attacked it, perfectly. We were a better team in the second half. We played better in the second half, but you can't spot a 14-0 lead to Oakland. That became 21-7 quickly. You can't do that to a team and just expect we're going to be able to fight back from this hole. And the Colts had an opportunity to do it, and obviously the Brissett pick 6 pretty much sealed their fate in this one. But, there's no doubt about it. In the beginning part of the game, the Colts were not ready to play. They looked like they lacked energy. And I think a lot of it's just the injuries in this team. Defensively, like you said, Darius Leonard and Malik Hooker are 2 key pieces they're missing. Defensively, offensively, they pretty much down their number 1, number 2 receivers and pretty much are all inexperienced guys out on the outside right now. But definitely, you've got to be blunt here. John Gruden knew exactly what he wanted to do, how to attack the Colts defense, and it took the Colts
executed it.
Yep.
Yeah, he executed it. Yeah, he executed it. Yeah.
It took the Colts about a half to adjust. And that's the big thing. The Colts had to adjust to Oakland. Oakland didn't have to adjust to Indianapolis. And I think that pretty much tells the story of this game.
Okay, so we've trashed the coaching. We've trashed the defense. And we're all disappointed that the Colts lost. Offensively, okay, this is kind of like I don't want to say mediocre because he's putting numbers on the board, but Brissett, is he the future of the Colts, or do they need to go after somebody? I mean, it's like in Eli Manning, somebody you say, like, I'm going to spend some money there and get him in now and try and win, because I believe the Colts are a playoff team. I believe they are. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. but I believe they're a playoff team. Do you just stay with Brissett, or do you say, let's make a move and get somebody else in here that can – because the last two games have not been stellar for Brissett in terms of accomplishments or game-winning plays,
Well, I
put numbers on the board.
I would say he was very, very good against Atlanta last week for Brissett. I thought that was probably one of the best games he's played in his career.
Yeah, it's always better when you win. But he put about the same numbers up this week.
He was 28 of 37 for 310 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, you can't ask a quarterback to play better than that. I mean, like what he did against Atlanta was about as reasonably well as you could expect any quarterback in the league to go out and play. I mean, even if you threw in an Aaron Rodgers, you can't expect him to put up necessarily better numbers than that. Like, I thought what he did against Atlanta was tremendous. Now, what he did against Oakland obviously leaves a lot to be desired. And this was certainly a tough game for him. And I know that the stats don't necessarily look bad, but there were just some missed opportunities and obviously the game-sealing interception throughout the game. And he only threw for 265 yards on 46 passing attempts. Again, I do think you have to look at everything in the complete context here. Again, you have a young quarterback in Brissett, and you didn't have much of a run game helping him throughout the game, unfortunately, probably just because of how quickly they found themselves in a 2-possession hole. And you also had a quarterback who was missing his number 1, his number 2 receivers on the outside. That's going to affect you. I don't think a guy like Eli Manning is going to come in and play any better than Jacoby Brissett. If anything, I think Jacoby Brissett's probably a better player than what Eli Manning is right now. I do think Jacoby Brissett, has an opportunity here to prove that he's the guy going forward. I don't know if I'm going to say he's the guy going forward. I think he has a great opportunity to be the guy. I think he has all the talent in the world to be that guy moving forward. But, like that pick six, it's going to come down to can he read defenses, because that's just a play where, he took the snap exactly at the guy he wanted to go to. The defender read his eyes like a book and just jumped the route and took it to the house. Those are the mistakes you can't have. You can't just stare down your receiver, and you can't just know where you're going with the football before the play even starts. And you can't make it obvious for defenses to see where you're going with the football, or you're going to have a lot of more pick sixes this year, unfortunately. So it was definitely it was a game where, and let's be honest, the Colts dropped a lot of Jacoby Brissett passes, like you mentioned with Eric Ebron. He was not getting a ton of help from his receiving core, even when he was putting the ball on target. So I just think it was a bad game all around. I'm not ready to jump off the Jacoby Brissett bandwagon.
Okay.
It's obviously a disappointing loss, but I think he still has the talent to be a good quarterback. I think this game is just a blip on the radar rather than something that's going to, doom this team or a sign that they need to get rid of Jacoby Brissett right away. I look back to last season, there were some games when people were saying the same thing about Andrew Luck. Like, is Andrew Luck done? Is he no longer the quarterback of the future for Indianapolis?
Well, we know he's not now. we know he's not.
He turned out not to be the quarterback of the future for different reasons than what we thought. But I think as you saw that season develop under Frank Reich, Luck really kind of got into a rhythm later in the season. We'll see if Jacoby Brissett can do that this season. Again, tough game in a vacuum. It's just one game. As long as this one game doesn't become a trend, I think Brissett will be fine.
All right. So now let's just look forward. Brissett threw 3 touchdown passes. You got to give him credit for that. One interception that was just a horrible. Yeah, you're right. You described what it was. No sacks, so he's scrambling out of the pocket. He's doing what he needs to do. I don't know where our offensive line is when we can only muster 81 yards rushing with Marlon Mack and Wilkins and Hines. I mean, these are guys that can run the football. I mean, and this is an offensive line that it's regarded as one of the best in the NFL. So we should be creating holes. So would it be fair to say, before we move on to Kansas City, which I think is where we're going next week, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so is this one on Frank Reich? I mean, did he just get out-coached in this game? I mean, what's your thoughts on that? I don't think any of our players played terribly bad. I mean, Ebron, dropped some passes, but dang, he's getting, without T.Y. Hilton on there, he's getting double teamed, he's getting covered. Jack Doyle made some great plays. We got a lot of rookie receivers in there that are trying to learn how to run the routes and learn how to play the defenses. So was this loss more on Frank Reich, or was it on Brissett, or was it on our offensive line, or was it on our defensive line? What's your thoughts on that? Pick one.
Yeah, I think anytime your team comes out and they just look like they're, no energy and they're struggling to open the game, they don't look like they're completely there mentally, that's got to reflect on the coaching. And I love Frank Reich. I'm not sitting here going to tell you Frank Reich's
I
bad
love him too.
Frank Reich's not the coach, but it was a bad game for him. And I think specifically if we want to talk about big issues in this game, as far as game planning, we need to look at Matt Eberflus, who's the Colts defensive coordinator. So I thought that's where the big issues, especially early on in the game, was the defensive side of the football. They had a very, very hard time stopping Oakland that first half. That's another guy from a game planning perspective, completely outcoached. I mean, like I said, John Gruden planned out his first 20 plays. So, when you watch the first quarter of that game, he planned out those plays, and it looked like he knew exactly what the Colts defense was going to be, where the holes in the zone were going to be, and how to attack that defense. And Eberflus had to adjust his defense in the second half to John Gruden. Like I said, the Colts had to adjust to the Raiders. The Raiders did not have to adjust to the Colts. To me, I love Frank Reich. I think this coaching staff will be fine in the long run. But in this one game, I think, John Gruden got the better of him.
Yeah, and I agree with you entirely. I mean, I agree entirely. I think we're fine. All right, now, so a couple questions we move forward. Every team in the AFC South is 2-2. Can we win this thing?
Yeah, well, it's up for grabs right now. I mean, no team in the AFC South. So the AFC South is an interesting position. There's no great team in the AFC South.
They're balanced.
I'm not sure.
It's the most balanced conference in the NFL, I think. You got four teams that are, I don't think any of them are Super Bowl contending teams, but they're all playoff teams. And it's going to be who makes the least amount of mistakes. Am I right or wrong there?
No, I think you're completely right. The AFC South is, like you said, it's the most balanced division. There's no great team, but there's no bad team. I mean, any of those teams could beat each other on any given Sunday. It would not be surprising at all. I mean, they're just all.
And they've all got to play each other twice. They've got to play each other twice. So they're going to beat each other.
Now, Houston and Indianapolis, I think, have the advantage right now. It's very, very early, but they're the only teams that have not lost a division game so far, so they have a leg up in the division from that standpoint. Now, the big thing is, obviously, we're going to preview the Chiefs game here coming up this coming weekend. Then the Colts will get a bye.
We'll do that last. We'll save that for last.
Set up, a big game with Houston. So in the division, it's wide open. It's just going to come down to, like you said, who makes the least mistakes. I think the quarterback play in the division is going to be something to monitor as the year goes on. A lot of unproven quarterbacks in this division. Jacoby Brissett for Indianapolis is unproven. You've got Minshew mania going on in Jacksonville. How long will that last? Will that go? Is that going to be something that's going to continue moving on through the season, or a team's going to start to figure him out? Marcus Mariota has always struggled with consistency in Tennessee. Is he going to be the guy, or are they going to move to Ryan Tannehill? We'll see with that. And even Deshaun Watson, I think he's the most proven of all the quarterbacks in the division, but he still has to prove himself as a actual star quarterback. Is he a serviceable quarterback?
Game winner. I mean, win big games. He's got to win big games.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know that he's won big games. He's won games, but I don't know that he's won big games for Houston. I don't know that he's I can't recall a big game where, like, man, he carried that team. Like Aaron Rodgers will carry you to a big winning game. Tom Brady will carry you to a big winning game. I'm almost getting to believe that Jared Goff will now carry you to a big winning game, but I think he has a lot of talent around him too. So that's a different story. But I don't see anybody. I don't see a front-running team in the AFC South right now. I think it's wide open, and it's who makes the least mistakes and can win the divisional games or the conference games and stay strong and not get injured. Injuries are the big thing.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. The division is wide open right now. Again, I think Indianapolis and Houston have the leg up here. I think those are probably the two teams that we'll see. I think one of those two is going to win it. I don't think Jacksonville, I don't think Tennessee is necessarily going to come back or come out on top. I think those two teams are just a tier right below Indianapolis and Houston. But, again, everyone is just so close in this division. It wouldn't surprise me either way. But I do think Indianapolis, I believe, has the most well-rounded team in the division in terms of when they get T.Y. Hilton healthy, when they get Devin Funchess healthy. They may not have the best quarterback in the division, but I do believe they're the most well-rounded team in the division. I think Houston struggles really. I think they have some star talent. I don't know if they have the depth. Jacksonville has a great defense. I don't know if they have the great offense. We'll see if this Gardner Minshew mania can continue, or if that'll come down to earth. And I think Tennessee, just Marcus Mariota's too inconsistent. I think that offense can be shut down too easily. So I just look at Houston because of the star power and Indianapolis because of the overall balance as the two front runners in the division.
Okay. I had several questions to ask you here now, and now I've gotten drawn a blank. Let me see here. All right, let's move on, and I'll come back to it. Oh no! Here's the question I wanted to ask. How confident are you now in our kicking game? I mean, he doinks one off the crossbars again. I mean, how confident are you that do we need to be finding a new kicker, or are we going to just live with Vinatieri for the rest of the year? I mean, he made everything. He made everything, but it's like, it's like you're hoping and not saying it's automatic.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think we're just going to see them continue to monitor. He did miss a kick. It was a 57-yard kick, I believe, that was missed by Vinatieri. So, it's tough to blame him on that one because even the good kickers, I mean, you throw them out from 57 yards, it's a coin flip probably. There's not a kicker in the NFL that's going to be able to go out there and consistently hit from 57 without a problem. That's a long, long field goal. And, yeah, he did miss it, and you would like to see him. I mean, it just looks bad for him because of the previous struggles. If he had a good season and he missed a 57-yard kick, no one would bat an eye. But because of his struggles he had earlier this year, misses a 57-yard field goal, people start to be like, oh, God, now here comes the missed kicks again. I think he's fine for right now. I know he missed the field goal. It's a long field goal. I don't think you can really look at that and say, he blew that kick from 57. He's done. We need to get rid of him. I don't think that's fair. I think he hasn't had the kicking issues we saw through the first couple games, through the last couple games. He's making his extra points. He made the chip shot field goals, which if you look at what he was doing week one, that was not a guarantee that he'd be making those chipped out field goals.
And we're excited that he's making his extra points. It's like,
exactly.
Oh
like,
we're just
taking
we're happy about that. That's not a good sign, Cole.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not.
It's not a good sign when we're like, oh, Jesus, he got the extra point in. I mean, do the Colts need to be out looking for a new kicker? I mean, and I love Adam Vinatieri. I mean, he's a legend. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. And, he's got, 4 or 5 Super Bowl rings. But is there a time when you say that's just enough and enough is enough?
Yeah, if you were to ask me, would I get a new kicker, I would have gotten a new kicker after their Week 2 game against Tennessee. So when he had blown those first 2 weeks and had multiple missed kicks.
We should be 3-1 right now, not 2-2.
Yeah.
I mean, we should have won the Chargers game, but we lost it on his foot. We lost that game on his foot.
Exactly. He cost you one game this year. Or at least you can very seriously argue he cost you one game. Came close
and
to
that keeps you out of the playoffs, possibly.
Yeah. To me, I would be looking for a new kicker. Now, granted, Frank Reich sees him in practice every day, knows how he's kicking in practice. They know, what's going through his mind way better than we do. And I think after the season the Colts had and what job Frank Reich did coaching that team last season, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll give Chris Ballard the benefit of the doubt. If they think Vinatieri can kick, if they think he still has a little bit left in the tank, I'll defer to their judgment because I think they've earned that right. I think they've proven that they know what they're doing. They're good coaches. So if they believe and they see him every day practice that he has something left in the tank, then I'll defer to their judgment. But it is a big risk. We've seen him struggle, and Father Time is undefeated. It catches up with everyone at some point. Mm-hmm. And the Colts are banking that it hasn't quite caught up to Adam Vinatieri as of yet, but something's got to explain his struggles.
I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to disagree with you. I think you need to move forward. I think that the amount of money that's out there, the amount of pride, winning, I think you need to move forward. I think you need to realize he's 46 years old, and his leg is just he's a 46-year-old man. Jesus Christ, I'm 60. I can't ride my bike like I used to be able to ride it when I was 46. And I try and go out and ride every day and walk my dogs, and you can't do it. I got a 16-year-old dog right now that I got to put down this week because he's blind, he's deaf, he can't smell anymore, and he just pees all over the house because he doesn't know what to do. I mean, it just age catches up with you at some point in time. And I think at this point in time for the Colts need to just make that cut and make that decision and say, let's just go find a kicker, somebody that can just drill it from 58 yards that we know he's going to drill it right down the middle. I don't think Vinatieri's that guy anymore. And God, I love him as much as anybody. He's a true Colt. He's a Patriot and a Colt. I mean, it's like, what more could you ask for of a player? But it's time to move on. And I think if they're going to rely on his leg to win games for the Colts, when extra points and field goals matter, I think they're putting a lot of risk into their reward, is what I'm thinking. That's my opinion. And I love the guy. I mean, I love him to death. But, and don't want him to go out this way, but I think he should have went out at the end of last year and said, I'm retired. He's got to have more money than God, or at least as much money as God. He's played, 26 years in the NFL, so he's got money put away. So I don't know. I think the Colts need to find a more reliable kicker. That would be my opinion. All right, let's move on to, do we have a chance against Kansas City? Is Mahomes going to just pick us apart piece by piece? We're playing at Kansas City. Are they just going to pick us apart piece by piece by piece?
Yeah,
Come on, be honest, Cole.
The optimist in me wants to say we have a shot. I don't see it.
Yeah, well.
I just really don't see it. With what the perform, I'm not going to hate on Derek Carr. I'm not going to say Derek Carr is a bad quarterback. But if Derek Carr is going to pick you apart, if Derek Carr is going to pick you apart, what the hell are you going to do against Patrick Mahomes and that passing attack? Because they'll really pick you apart. If they come out in a soft zone, Mahomes might throw for 500 yards in that game. I mean, what the Colts showed defensively last week against Oakland, I mean, they just need to burn that and throw it away and come up with something completely different because, Patrick Mahomes is going to absolutely pick them apart. I think if the Colts want to have a chance in this game, they want to go in and try to pull off this upset, they're going to have to run the football, and they're going to have to run the football really, really well. You better hope Marlon Mack's healthy. I know he's dealing with an ankle issue. We'll monitor that throughout the week and see if he practices, but he is, battling with an injury. We're not quite sure what to expect from him from a health standpoint this week. But you'd want him to be healthy, and you want to rely on that offensive line. They had a down week last week. They need to come back and prove it this week that they can still run the ball. They can still open up those holes. Because if the Colts want a chance of winning this one, they're going to have to probably run the ball really, really well, keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, dictate the pace of the game and the balance of the game, and just keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands, man. You can't let Mahomes just sit back in the backfield, pick you apart, and then go 3 and out in your next possession and start letting them rack up a lot of points in quick succession. No one has really proven fit to stop this Kansas City passing attack. The closest we've seen was Detroit this past week, who did a very good job. Like, props to Detroit's defense. The Colts need to be watching film from Detroit and looking at what they did against Kansas City, because Mahomes actually looked mortal for once this season in that game. 0 touchdown passes from Mahomes. He did throw for over 300 yards, but 0 touchdown passes, and they still lost the game, unfortunately. So you do all that defensively.
And it sucks when you look mortal and you still win.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
He looked mortal because Mahomes is not look. He's looked immortal for a season and a half. Now he looks mortal, and he still beats your ass against probably the best game Detroit's played in the last 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, that's as good a football because I saw that on Red Zone too, and watched them play. I mean, they threw everything but the kitchen sink at him, and he still found a way to beat you. I think you're exactly right in that we have got to keep Mahomes off the field. So I think Reich needs to find an offensive scheme that just chews up clock. And you got to find your offensive line. To me, the key to this game is our offensive line. We're not going to get anything out of our defense. We're not going to pressure Mahomes, and he can run the ball. I mean, he's mobile. He's a mobile. He throws better off the run than he does in the pocket, truthfully, from what I've seen him play.
Yeah.
And he's got receivers that read him well, and they know how to come back to the ball. They know how to get into the zone, the emptiness of the zone. And one-on-one, he's got receivers that can beat you, and he can deliver the football. And he does that. And I say, if I did anything with the Chiefs, I would do my best to try and keep Mahomes in the pocket, because I don't think he's as good in the pocket as he is on the run. He creates crap like there's no quarterback I've seen since Aaron Rodgers years ago. Aaron Rodgers had the same mentality. Brett Favre had the same mentality of guys that they could create off the run, and Mahomes has that entirely. And our defensive backfield is not strong enough. I don't know, is Leonard supposed to be back this week, or is he still on? We don't know that answer yet.
Yeah, we don't know that answer yet. The concussion protocol is so hard to predict in the NFL. It's just going to depend if you can, it's one of those things where there are no shortcuts through it. You've got a set list of things you need to get done. You need to pass all these tests, and it's just a matter of if he passes them or not. And, we don't know the answer to that. We'll monitor that as the week develops.
So would you agree with me or disagree and speak up that I think our offensive line is the most important part of this game this week is we've got to keep the Colts offense on the field and keep Mahomes off the field. Is that true or what?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If the Colts can run the football well in this game and rely on those guys up front, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Anthony Costanzo, all those guys up front, and open up some holes in the run game, keep Mahomes off the field, kind of dominate the tempo, dominate the time of possession, then, that's going to be a good method for beating Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's exactly what Detroit did, right? Mm-hmm. Kerryon Johnson, 26 carries in that game for 125 yards. I mean, that's a lot of carries, a lot of yards for them as a team. And, you also had, J.D. McKissick run for 30 yards. I mean, the Lions ran for 186 yards as a team. So they really controlled the line of scrimmage, ran the ball well, tried to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. Now, you can do all that, but you still got to find a way to get stops defensively, which is what really, really worries me. And offensively, I agree. You've got to dominate the tempo, keep Mahomes off the field, keep his possessions to a minimum. But defensively, you've got to find something to do to slow down this passing attack. It's a game where I think the Colts are really, really going to miss Malik Hooker, because he's a rangy safety. Yeah. He can cover sideline to sideline, and he makes quarterbacks double guess themselves about going deep down the field. If I want to go, after deep post route or this deep, slant route, whatever it may be, they've got to stop and think, okay, where's Hooker? Because he's that rangy of a safety that, he just kind of sits back there and roams like a free safety, a center fielder almost, waiting for an opportunity to get a pick. He's going to be out for this week. So, and Patrick Mahomes, we all know how much he loves to take those deep shots. and how good they are at getting those deep shots. Having him out, I think, hurts them big time.
Well,
so
I mean, Mahomes is a big play rate player. I mean, he's not. I mean, he's a big play Ray. I mean, he makes the big plays. I mean, gee, many Christmas. That guy finds the openings and finds the zips in the zone and hits his receivers on target. But he's a big play Ray. So the problem of just saying you're going to keep the Chiefs off the field, I don't think that Mahomes needs to be on the field that much. I think, you give him 8 plays and you're probably scored on, most likely, at some point in time is what I think. I think, you give him 8 plays in a row, he's going to find a way to get a receiver open, and he's going to make the play. And it's all with his arm and with his receivers running their routes. And I don't think the Colts defense has enough to shape up and be able to guard that offensive line or the offensive line, that offensive attack of Mahomes and his receivers, because he's got everybody running routes great, and he has great vision for a young quarterback. It's amazing to me how he sees all the players on the field, and he'll find the one that's open. But he does it all on the run. Like I said, if I was a Colts, my opinion would be to just keep him in the pocket as much as you can and contain him and make him throw out of the pocket, because I think he's better on the run.
Yeah, well, and when we look at this Detroit game last week and just kind of play off what you were saying, we can talk about all the ways Detroit, played well defensively, limited Patrick Mahomes, 0 touchdowns. They still gave up 34 points in that game. I mean, this isn't college football. This is the NFL. That's a lot of points for the NFL. So there's just it's such a tough offense to stop. They put up points in so many different ways. They can even run the ball well. I mean, LaShawn McCoy was averaging over 5 yards carry for Kansas City last week. So they sound like they don't have a running game. I mean, they do have a running game that can be pretty effective throughout the game. It's just Patrick Mahomes is so damn good at throwing the football, they don't really have to use it that much, because Patrick Mahomes' pass is pretty much unguardable right now.
Yeah.
So the Colts, just what scares me, Steve, I think we can run the ball well, or should be able to run the ball well with our offensive line. We're going to need T.Y. Hilton back to move the ball offensively. That's Jacoby Brissett's favorite target, hands down our best receiver. We're going to need him out there making plays. I worry about, I don't think we're going to be able to get a pass rush on Patrick Mahomes. Detroit did not record a sack in that game on Mahomes at all. It's tough to get pressure on him. We all know how much we struggle as far as when it comes to pressuring the quarterback, and I don't think our secondary is good enough to really shut down this Kansas City passing attack. I worry that if we come out in another zone defense, that he'll just pick us apart. And even if we come out man-to-man, I'm still not sure that's enough to stop him. I just think this offense is way too good right now. I think Indianapolis is too beat up right with Malik Hooker out, with Darius Leonard being questionable going into this game. They could really use those two guys. Leonard has a chance of coming back. We'll see if he can. But I just think we're too banged up right now, and I don't think we have the offense to keep up with Kansas City.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. You got Johnson puts up 120 yards rushing. I mean, combined with or that's Detroit. McCoy puts up 56 yards. Yeah, Mahomes, 54 yards. All right, yeah. No, I think we're going to be overwhelmed. I think we're just going to be overwhelmed, and we're going to Kansas City to play anyway, which we're not even playing this game at home. So. That's correct, isn't it? The game's not in Indianapolis, is it?
Yeah, no, it's at Kansas City.
It's at Kansas City, yeah. So we've never done well there. So, all right, wrap it up. What's your prediction for the game?
Steve, I'm going to try to be optimistic. I'll predict a Kansas City, I think, is going to put up 37. I just don't think we can stop them. I'll try to be optimistic, say we put up 20 offensively, a 37-20 win for Kansas City. So not as bad as it could be, but I just think they have too much offensively.
Yeah, I predicted a 2-touchdown. I wrote down on my notes, here's where we're talking. I wrote down a 2-touchdown score. They're going to beat us by 2 touchdowns. I just don't think we're there.
Yeah.
We're not ready to play with these guys yet. And, we're injured. We got some players out that are critical. Our defensive line needs work. I'm disappointed in our offensive line that we're not cutting holes like we were in the first 2 games. And Brissett is still a question mark. I mean, he's done well, but, is he a playoff caliber quarterback for the NFL? We don't know yet. I think he'll develop into one, and I like the guy. And then I got real concerns about our kicking game. I still think they need to make some moves there. So we talked about all this on the show today, so there's no sense rehashing it. But I got Chiefs by 2 touchdowns over us. I don't think we can hang with them. Agreed?
Yep. I had – you're a little bit more optimistic than me. I had Chiefs by 17. But, yeah, I more or less agree with you.
I'm going to go 14. I'm going to think we can hang in there somewhat. Because I'm a loyal – I'm in a pool, and I never bet against the Colts. So, I think that we're in trouble on this game.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think this is not a win for us. We're going to go to 2-3. But who do the other teams play? Do we know? Do you look at the schedule?
Yeah, I can pull it up.
We're all
here.
2-2. Everybody's 2-2 in the league right now. So who does everybody else play?
Yeah, I can pull it up.
Pulled up?
Yeah, let me pull up the Week 5 schedule here.
God, we're already in the Week 5. God,
yeah,
man,
it's
getting
crazy.
old sucks. I swear to God, you get old, and it's like October. Like,
so, divisional-wise, Tennessee will take on Buffalo at home Sunday at 1. Buffalo looked pretty good last week.
Buffalo looks strong. Buffalo looks very strong. No, they put it to New England. I mean, they took New England to task.
I think Buffalo. Buffalo
they're an underrated
team.
Yeah.
I think. Yep.
That's a playoff caliber team as well. Probably more so than the Colts right now.
Yep. And then, so Jacksonville will travel to Carolina, where they will take on the Panthers for a big road game there. I'm not sure what to make of that one. With Kyle Allen looks like the real deal for Carolina. I think Cam Newton's days might be numbered there.
Well, I think if Cam Newton comes back, then Carolina loses. If they keep him on the sidelines, they've got a chance. Really, I think Cam Newton's days are numbered. I think that I tend to agree with you. He doesn't fit that offense. He doesn't fit the coaching style. He's not a good fit for that team, and we'll see what happens.
And finally, Houston will take on Atlanta at home. So that's probably one you would expect Houston to win. But, like we talked about, Atlanta, explosive offense.
Atlanta's a great football team.
Yep, they looked bad last week against Tennessee. I know that was a disappointing performance for them. Mm-hmm. But anytime you got guys like Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones on the outside, Matt Ryan giving them the football.
They're dangerous.
They have a chance in every game, I think, yeah.
Yeah, they're with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. That's another big play rate team. They'll beat you on one play.
Yeah.
Or they'll beat you on 3 plays. They'll score 3 touchdowns. Like we got beat last week. We'll get beat. They'll get beat on 3 plays. So we got to hope Atlanta comes through and pulls that one off for us. Otherwise, we're struggling. All right. Anything else?
No, I think that pretty much wraps it up. I'm just hoping for a competitive game next week, and I'll be happy.
All right. Well, let's talk about something else real quick right now before we sign off. Indiana Basketball Weekly. We're going to fire up here pretty soon. When do you want to get started? When do we have an idea when we want to go, or you want to think about it? Or we have the Hoosier Hysteria program going on. I think Saturday night or Saturday afternoon or sometime around then. I think you're going to be there as a representative for us and getting some chatter from players and from coaches.
Yep.
What do you see in the Hoosiers this year? Anything big?
Yes, so, not to open a whole can of worms here, but
no, and we don't want to. It's a 2-minute conversation. Then we'll do an whole separate show on it later on this week. But just what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so they're going to be an interesting team this year. I think they have a lot of X factors, and really, I would not be surprised with anything with this team. If they struggle, wouldn't surprise me. If they come and have a really good year, wouldn't surprise me. I think they have a lot of X factors and guys that have potential to step up for that basketball team. But it's just going to be a matter of can they step up. I like they have more size this year. I think the health of Jerome Hunter, who was one of their top incoming recruits last season, unfortunately didn't get to play for an undisclosed reason. It was essentially an injury, but a not basketball-related injury. Not really going to speculate on what that exactly was, but it was just not a typical injury. He's back and healthy this year. They expect him to play. He's a big wild card. Guys like Devontae Green, Al Durham, Rob Finney, are those guys going to be consistent? They were very inconsistent last year. I thought Devontae Green started to show some consistency last year. And Durham and Rob Finney are younger players. Can those guys step up and be consistent? I think it's going to all depend on the development of the team.
3 quick points, and then we'll save this for another show. Al Durham and Devontae Green were named captains of the team.
Yep.
Finney was named the point guard. Are you happy with all those moves?
Yeah, I think Devontae Green's obviously, one of the few seniors they have on the team, so that makes sense. And I thought that the fact he showed consistency. Yep. The fact, but his helter-skelter, I thought he showed some consistency, though. Really, at the end of the year, he was their best player.
Oh, I love Devontae Green. He's one of my favorite players at IU. I'd put that guy on the court as much as I could keep him on the court. He makes good mistakes. There's making bad mistakes. There's making good mistakes. He makes good mistakes.
Yeah,
Dumb mistakes, but good mistakes.
Yeah, so he was their best player for the last probably 10 or 11 games or so, and he was consistent over that stretch. If he can do that over a full season, he'll be a very, very, very good player. So, it's about him being consistent. Rob Finney being point guard, I think, is a logical thing to do. If he can be consistent with that three-point shot, he was very good to start the year. Kind of suffered a pretty bad concussion that caused him to miss a lot of time. And when he came back, his three-point shot just wasn't the same. He needs to be consistent shooting the basketball and be very good defensively, which I think he's more than capable of doing. And Al Durham, I think, is just a really hard-working player. You saw him make some big steps in his game, even though some of those areas, like his ability to shoot the ball, may not be where you want them to be. You can just see the improvement year over year. So him being a captain, I think that's just a testament to how hard of a worker he is. And I think he'll put in the time to get better and improve where he needs to. And if he can do that, I think he'll be a big, big piece for that team.
All right, last question I'll ask you, then we'll get off here. Is Miller Archie on a hot seat right now?
Right now, no. I think he's fine right now. There's some pressure. There's a little bit of pressure building, but the seat is not hot right now. If they struggle this year, another bad year, then he's firmly on the hot seat.
I think he's on the hot seat now. But I think that the AD he's all about making money, and as long as they're bringing cash in, and when your president of the university come and pull $53 million out of your athletic budget to say we need to build a few new buildings for the rest of the students, there's a lot of money sitting in that athletic department.
Yeah.
So he's doing a good job. So that's good. But we'll talk about that on the IU show, and that will be coming. We'll announce that. We'll put it out on the grillingtruth.com and put it out, and Cole and I will be handling that and working forward with that. So just kind of a teaser for it. And Cole, thank you very much for your time. Go Colts is all I can say. I mean, I'm rooting for them. But I think they've got to get some things righted real quick, or they're going to be in trouble. And the defensive line scares me. I don't think we're putting enough pressure on quarterbacks, but we're not going to rehash all that. Anything else you want to say before we close out?
No, I think that pretty much covers it, Steve.
All right. Well, for everybody that's listened this long, thank you very much. On behalf of Cole, Hannah, and myself, and the Colts Weekly Show on behalf of thegruelingtruth.com and betnow.eu. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to us, and hopefully you got something out of this, and we'll talk to you next week. That's all we can do.